Just because I love you, it don't mean I trust you. Everybody not to be trusted. Everybody around me thugging. Everybody around me drugging. Everybody around me hustling. Everybody know not to bring no new riggin' around me. They say I be bugging. Got racks in the go-yard luggage. Just cause I love you, it don't mean I trust you. Everybody not to be trusted.
Hi guys, and welcome to Uncut with Q. My name is Catalina, and today I'm going to be taking over for Q. So I'm super excited, Mitzi, to finally have this conversation with you. I mean, I've seen your other podcast, and it just feels so good to know there's other people that are just on this frequency, on this wavelength. And so I have some questions for you that I want to ask you because you seem to know a lot about this stuff. And, you know, I have this thing that I wanted to ask you about where I feel like people always get consciousness and intelligence confused. Mm-hmm. And I want to know your thoughts on that. Like, why do people always compare the two? And this happened to me because I had a pet parrot. You know, parrots mm-hmm. are highly intelligent. And mm-hmm. the question I would always get when they would start seeing her mannerisms is, oh my gosh, she's so smart. Like, does she actually feel jealousy and anger? And I'm like, of course. Like, it would never click to me that this was really a question I was receiving. Mm-hmm. And then it just hit me one day. People are associating intelligence and consciousness as one. And I just don't get, like, where's the confusion? Where, like, what's happening? Like, why do people think that?
Intelligence is a level of consciousness, but everything has consciousness running through it. Like, it has energy, I think we have self-consciousness. Yeah. But self-awareness, I'm not sure if every animal does or if everything does. I think it kind of does, but they're more connected because, like, grass, you know how, like, the smell of grass whenever you cut it, that's actually it kind of like screaming out, warning the other grass of danger.
Really?
So, yeah.
Well, I'm over here learning how to garden now.
and so a lot of plants, a lot of animals are actually community driven, and I think we are as human beings too. But consciousness is there in everything and in us. But intelligence is just a level of consciousness.
Yeah, I feel like it's two totally different things. Like, you know, it's kind of like confusing for people that it's like just because something is not as intelligent as you does not mean it cannot feel pain. It cannot feel happiness, you know. And so I had to, like, ask myself, is, like, emotions, like, do you have to be intelligent to have emotions? I mean, to a certain extent, right? Or I don't know. I just it's something that people always do, and I just can't seem to understand why it's such a hard association to understand as two completely separate things for people.
See, I think some people confuse intelligence with the ability to worry and be self-aware enough to think about yourself and to worry. I think animals are above that, and I think plants are too, because they already know that everything they need is there. Now, I know animals die because they starve. I understand all of that. But overall, like, when elements are right, there's plenty. And us as humans, we think we're intelligent because we're aware of we may not have enough. Yeah. And I don't think that's intelligence. I think that's kind of, I think it's more like you're self-aware, but you're self-centered.
Yeah, you know what? That's true, because it kind of, when you said, like, people are aware, it kind of falls into, like, when I think of, like, people and them being self-centered, I'm like, do people even understand that there's a difference between desire and pleasure? You know, I also feel like that's something they get mixed up, right? Like, you know, do people really know the difference between pleasure and desire? Like, when you hear someone say that, like, people are always like, I'm depressed, I don't know what I want. And it's like, these two emotions, like, if someone was to come to you and ask you, Mitzi, like, why am I not happy and I have everything? Like, what do you think those two emotions is why that's happening to them, because they don't know the difference? I feel like people are always getting confused with pretty much everything, but specifically that. And
I think know yourself is such a powerful statement. It's really, really deep. And I think when you truly understand yourself, you can communicate a little bit better. And when you know yourself, you also know your soul. So people can go after things that give them temporary pleasure, or they can go after the money, they can go after the fame, they can go after the hot relationship, whatever it is. But if their soul is inside screaming, not that way, they're going to be miserable.
Yeah.
And they don't know themselves. They're trying to be something they're not. And every time that you're something you're not, you're out of alignment. So anything out of alignment feels bad.
I think that's what's hard. We live in a society where people want to be authentic, but they rely heavy on their ego to survive. And I'm not sure if social media did that, or the transition between, what is it? Because it's like they're like, I want people to be honest with me. I want people to be true. And then you give them the opportunity, or the situation presents itself where I'm like, hey, this is what's up. And people are just like, no, I don't want it.
Yeah, and it is the ego that does that. That makes you fearful of thinking. I mean, it really gives you a feeling that I'm going to die right now if I go through with this. It's like even just telling the truth to somebody. If they're being egocentric, they're not going to want to tell you the truth, because it'll almost feel like dying in a way. Like it's very unsafe feeling for them. So our ego is wanting to constantly keep you safe. And then anything that doesn't feel safe, it's going to make you feel like it's dangerous. Don't do it. And that's why we have to transcend the ego, understand where the ego is. Like, we are amazing tools. Like, we have this amazing body. We have this amazing mind, this brain. And our mind is separate from the brain. The brain is like a remote control that allows our mind to operate this body and to experience this world with these 5 senses. It's amazing. We have that ability.
I love that. And you know what's funny? I'm so glad you talk about it, because when people like ask me this like question, back in the day, everyone's like, what is life? Why are we here? It's the biggest question ever. And like, the conclusion I came to when I was like 17, 18 years old, I was like, I had just learned a little bit about, the human body and why we have emotions, and it's all brain composition. It's just chemicals that we're feeling, and the 5 senses you brought up. It's just electrical signals being sent to our brain. That's in our brains trying to perceive reality for what it is.
Yeah, what if we're here just for the experience, but it goes much deeper. Yes. To have the best experience, you have to be completely, authentically the best self you can be. You can't be over here hurting people and be your best self and experience the best life. So I think we're here to experience, and we get to choose how great of an experience we have. And that's with our thoughts and what we choose to do. And we can master this mind. We can master this brain. We can master this body. We have the ability to become the master. We can master the ego. All of those are just tools for us for this experience. The ego is necessary. If you didn't have the ego, you wouldn't have gotten up, you wouldn't have got dressed, you wouldn't have fed yourself.
I feel like you have to have a healthy level of it, so you could have that confidence to say, this is the identity I want to create for myself. This is who I want to be. But I think where it becomes unbalanced is when people just rely on it. Like, this is who I am. Nothing else matters. No one else matters. And it's like, now you're,
They let the ego master them in their life. Yeah.
I have a question for you, Nat, because you brought up something. I'm like, it's about being the best experience. And then I heard something. I don't know where I heard it. It was, do you feel that everyone is a reflection of you, including animals, everyone. But specifically, I couldn't really understand the animal portion until I first understood the human portion. So I'm like, they're like, everyone is a projection of you. That's what I heard. And I was just like, I would think of like the girl or the guy that did me wrong or I didn't like, or, who was ugly with me. And I'm like, she's not a projection of me. How could she be a projection of me?
I thought the same thing.
And then I had to like learn that it's not about that. And so the way I've learned is like, okay, if I see a woman who is overweight, and I would look at her back then, this is not me now, I'd be like, oh, she's so overweight, I could never do that. I realized it's not that I didn't like her, but I automatically just didn't like her because of what I didn't want to be. Because little did I want to admit to myself, every day in the mirror, I'm like, oh no, like, oh, I'm so fat. And other people are like, you're not fat at all. And I'm like, but I was tearing myself apart, insecure and just being negative. And so that projection was being projected onto her because of what I saw in her. I was like, oh, don't like that. And so once I realized that's what I was doing, I had to learn how to correct the behavior. And then I felt like a bad person once I realized that's what I was doing. But once I learned how to like transcend that, like you said, transcend your ego, I became a better person. And I became a better me. And I had a better life experience. And it's just cool that there's a way to explain that, because up until I had conversations like this with people, I didn't know that was a thing. I just thought, you know, if it wasn't for them saying everyone's a projection of you, I would have never thought to have that perspective.
You know, when I first heard it, it pissed me off. Because I was dating a narcissist. He had been diagnosed narcissistic personality disorder. I know people are using that word a little too much. A lot, yeah. And it really negates the true abuse that comes from those kind of people. But because not every asshole is a narcissist. No, people can be assholes. And not everybody who loves himself is a narcissist. Like, people need to get over that and quit being narcissistic by thinking they're a psychiatrist and can diagnose people. So at the time when somebody said that to me, I was like, do you know how horrible of the person it is that I'm with right now? And they're like, why are you with him? I was like, I mean, they're not all bad all the time. I was like, yeah, but why do you put up with that much bad?
Yeah, why don't you just leave?
I thought I could prove my love and they would know they're lovable, and then I would somehow prove I'm lovable. You know, like, I don't know. My people-pleasing attitude, I don't know. And so I really dug in, because I knew at the time that anytime something pissed me off, dig a little bit deeper and see, where is this really coming from? Because I feel like that's the ego's first sign of like, no, don't dig deeper. You may actually master me if you do. I won't be your master anymore. And I want to be in control. So like, I would dig deeper, and I found that everything is a projection from you because of your own thoughts about everything. You project your thoughts about things onto people and onto things and onto animals, onto plants, whatever it is. And it has nothing to do with that person or you or the plant or anything. It has everything to do with you and how you've chosen to think about. Because really, anybody you meet, you only know like 5% of them, maybe 18%. Right. And then you project everything else. You fill in the context with your own thoughts.
Because that's what our brain does. It's literally just a giant guesser. That's why you can trick the brain. You ever play those games, those little brain games where they're like, guess, is it what's bigger, what circle's bigger, and they turn out to be the same, and things like that? Because the brain's not perfect. It's just a guessing machine.
But it's so perfect for what it's made to do.
Yes.
It's not perfect to be everything for you, because it was only supposed to be a remote. Like a remote control.
Or little antennas walking around.
Yeah, and then we have the mind that powers it. I mean, they have a friend of mine was telling me they have Albert Einstein's brain, but they can't do anything with it because the mind is no longer there. Its consciousness is not there. So it means nothing. It's nothing. A brain is nothing. Your body is nothing. You're nothing without your mind, your consciousness. That's what powers everything. Like, that's what turns you on. And it's so like when somebody's projecting their thoughts about somebody, it's usually based off very little information of the actual person. And has everything to do with you. And this is why you shouldn't care what anyone thinks about you. Even if they had one bad business dealing, one bad whatever it was, it could be a complete misunderstanding. And like, or, you know, maybe at the time you were not in that great consciousness level, so you were not doing the best things. So like, you know, whatever it may be, but is that who you are all the time? Like 24/7, you never grow, you've never experienced anything else. Like, it wouldn't be fair for anyone to judge anyone. It really isn't, because like, people can change and then mature and whatever else. And then also at the same time, you don't know everything about them. So you don't even know why they did that. Most of the time, we're not even trying to understand people. We're trying to project on, oh, they did this, so they're this, you know, or they're like this. Oh, somebody told me. And it's like, I don't even care. And, but this is why don't worry about what other people think about you. Get to know yourself. And then when you know yourself and you love yourself and you get down and know the flaws about you, even the ugly parts that you may not have wanted to see right away, and then you look at it and you can accept it with love and allow it, and then it can just like, it transforms, it transcends. Like anything that's accepted in love is such a powerful energy. It can transform. to something more beautiful.
Yeah, I love what you said, because I think a lot of people think that their quality of life lacks because, oh, I mean, yes, to a certain extent, the people around me and all that, but it really all begins with you. Like your job and the people and your lover and your friends. It's like, maybe they're not the best quality, but if you're attracting them, and if you keep attracting the same kind of people and they keep betraying you, and you kind of have to stop at one point. And this is what changed my life, is I had to introspect and stop looking out and say, what am I doing wrong? Why are they coming to me? What am I attracting? Why am I creating these problems for myself? Once I took accountability for the situational, like, just awareness that was going on in my life, everything changed. I said, you know what? I need to create boundaries. I need to like push back. And I think something else you said, oh my goodness, you said so many great things. When people are, you know, you're just like love fixes everything.
True, real love, the real energy
genuine,
of love.
Unconditional love.
Not like I'm going to self-sacrifice and not love myself to show somebody else love. That's not love either.
You know what? I need that whole podcast for
yeah.
you.
I've been there. That's why I'm like, I want to touch on this, because I know some people think, oh, if I self-sacrifice, that means I'm loving someone. No, that means you're not loving yourself.
Yeah, because again, it all starts with you. So if you're not looking at yourself for the problems and seeing what you're doing wrong in life, how could you ever better your life? If you're blaming everyone else for the situations in your life, you're never going to get anywhere. You're always going to have an excuse for why your life isn't the way you want to have it, versus saying, okay, well, you know, if I keep wasting my whole life with someone who's not pouring back into me, maybe that's why I'm not getting anywhere. Maybe I should start pouring into myself instead of others.
Yeah, one's powerless, and when you gain your power back, you take your power back. Like, and the reticular activating system, I love talking on it, because it's whatever you focus on, you're going to see more of. And just naturally, that's how the brain works. Yeah. And so, like, if you're constantly complaining or blaming other people, guess what? The brain's going to find more of that for you to find, because that's what you're focusing on. And so whenever you change and you're like, no, I want to focus more on like where my power lies and what I can do, my boundaries, my whatever, this is where you can really stand in your power. But then you're also training your brain and how your mind processes things, of what you want to see more of. You're like, hey, I don't like this crappy life anymore. I don't want to keep focusing on this. And it's us as a radio station, we're tuning in. What are you tuning into? What are you thinking about? And what are you talking about? What are you doing? That's your radio station right now. If you don't like it, change the station. You're the only one who can.
Change the tune. And I think people almost like get so confused when I start having these conversations. They're like, oh, you know, oh, you're spiritual, you're a real hippie. And I'm like, no, like I'm talking about science. Your brain is an electric like organ. It sends electric signals. Everything in reality that you see and perceive is electric signals. When you're seeing something, it's light refracting into sensors in your eye that sends an electrical signal to your brain. Same with your nose, same when you're touching, it's all sensors. Like, your brain isn't seeing any of this. It's just perceiving all of these signals and turning it into a reality. So is it a hallucination that we all agree on? That we say, yeah, this is reality because we all see the same thing, so we're not hallucinating? But it really is a hallucination in a sense, maybe.
Yeah, what if we all created this?
Yeah, as a collective.
As a collective. So we're all tapped in to like the collective consciousness. Yeah. Like, what if?
And what if that's what this is? It's like we all are experiencing ourselves outside of one another through the collective, but then also within ourselves, something like that. But I guess that's what drives me nuts. If you are just like, they just don't want to learn about this stuff. And I'm like, your heart is also like an electric organ. Like, literally, when you have like go into cardiac arrest or whatever, they gotta hit you with the things. They gotta be like,
they're pumping you full of electricity for a reason.
Yes, like yes, I get it. We have flesh, but I mean, we are energy, and it's like, I think they already proved that your aura exists because your heart emanates a electromagnetic field around you, and some people have smaller ones, some people have bigger ones, and people interact with those auras, and it's just like, some people can even see them. I can't see them, but can I feel them? Yeah. You ever walk into a room and it's just like, this feels, somebody just got in a fight in here, everyone's smiling, but it feels tense. And so it's just interesting to me that people just don't want to learn about it, don't want to hear about it, don't want to accept that this is real.
Well, when somebody tells me they don't believe in all of that, well, first off, there's proof of it, but no matter what, no matter how much proof you can give some people don't want to know. That's why I only talk to people who are receptive now. I don't care to try to talk anyone to anything.
I used to try to be the crazy person, just post it all on the Facebook and social media, like, you gotta know this so you can awaken. And no.
Yeah, I'm just more like, if the conversation, if you want to receive it, I'm like, yeah, let's have the conversation. Other than that, I don't care. And that's okay. It's okay where you want to be and what you want to believe. And I only think I know what I know. So, I could be wrong on everything I'm thinking. But I think what we were saying something right before that. I was going to.
So many things.
I started going on.
It happens. Because it's
thinking of all this stuff. It's so cool.
Yes, it's because there's just so much. And it's just like, how do we touch on it all? Because it all goes in depth.
I remember if somebody's like, I don't believe all that. I'm like, when somebody's staring at you, don't you know?
Yeah, you feel it. It's like, and then you
how
eyes
do
with
you
them, and
feel
it's awkward.
That's energy.
Yeah, and
that's energy.
It's not a lucky guess. That the gut feeling. Like, there's a reason why we always say gut feeling, and it's like, if people would just learn about the chakra systems, they're like, oh no, that's another religion. No, it's energy centers in your body. And there's actually more there's some outside of our body, but I haven't even studied on them because I'm still trying to understand the ones in my body.
Yeah.
And so, they're all connected to certain glands, or what is it? It's like the endocrine system. And there's 7 glands in our body, maybe 8. Don't quote me, guys. If y'all Google it, you'll find the answers. But each chakra center is connected to each one, and our gut center is where our willpower comes from and everything else. And so it's just kind of like, that's where you feel that gut, like, And so people be like, I trust my gut. It's not your gut. It's not your stomach. Your stomach just tells you you're hungry. Like, come on, guys. Like, it's energy. You're more than just meat and bones. That's why they can't do nothing with his brain. Who was it?
I don't know I forgot who has it. But
somebody's brain. They have someone's brain somewhere, and it doesn't work because it's dead. We're more than flesh and bones. So...
Yeah, they used to not believe in meridians and all of that because they were studying dead people.
Yeah.
People that are already dead. You're not going to see their energy centers lighting up. No. It's gone. It's like trying to study electricity in a unplugged TV. That's not going to work, guys.
See all the action going on. There's nothing happening.
Yeah, and then they come back with the dead TV and say, there is no electricity. Electricity doesn't exist. It's like, but are you serious? Plug in the TV again.
Yeah,
then study it. Tell me. But the meridians, they found out they're real once they actually started studying live bodies and not just. Now I can't tell you the study. GTS that, Google that shit.
Yeah, there you go.
It's out there.
Right.
There's a lot of cool stuff,
There
and
is.
even the CIA has been releasing documents like the Gateway Experience. That was something I talked to Q about.
They admitted that people can have psychic abilities, and that I even talked about aliens, but another podcast on that. But it's like, and people still are like, I don't believe in that. That's that horoscope crap. I'm like,
and that's okay. Like, I'm. Some people have their things, and it's okay if they want to be like not fully conscious of everything. It may scare them, but I also kind of look at it like this. This is going to be super weird.
Okay.
But have you ever seen somebody who seems to come to life? Like, they just been coasting through life, and all of a sudden you're like, what happened to them? Like, they look different. They're coming to life. They're like accomplishing stuff.
They just start glowing out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I have.
Have you ever wondered what that is?
I just feel like they either were secretly working the whole time, or they just met the right people. I don't know. I never actually really thought about it, but...
What if our consciousness is so big that it can't fully fit in this body anyways?
I've heard of that we're only experiencing one little fragment
Yeah.
of our consciousness.
So what if we have consciousness and different avatars, and we have the ability to hop in between different avatars and play in them for a little bit if we want to, or even stay there if we want to. But let's just say this. Let's just...
Okay.
Like,
I'm playing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what if some of these people that are not willing to absorb anything right now is because they don't have full consciousness fully in them anyways? They're only alive enough to be this avatar to be hopped into.
Okay, I see.
And then when somebody there's a consciousness fully hops into that avatar, it fully comes to life and becomes aware.
And so are they still the same person? Is a whole nother mind, or is it still the same
What if
mind?
they just have more consciousness?
More consciousness. Yeah,
added
because
in.
I was like, I don't think it's like, because then people will be like, it's possession, it's a demon, no.
But what if it was just enough consciousness to keep the avatar there for you to be able to hop into? So then whenever you hop into it, I know this sounds super weird, but what if?
I can relate because, you know, when I started raising my frequency and I started becoming more aware and conscious and taking accountability for who I am, I started being more successful. Which is so weird because remember when we first started this podcast, I said, what does consciousness and intelligence have to do with anything? They're two separate things. But by being more conscious, I have, in a sense, become more intelligent. Or have I become more aware?
I think you've become more aware,
Yeah.
which also is intelligence, but
Yeah.
a higher level of intelligence.
Right.
So it just feels like,
levels
okay.
to this.
Yeah,
and
so
that's
many
why it's a hard concept to grasp because people are like, but you just said, but like you said, it's like a level. It's I think everyone tries to see the world as black and white, and you just can't do that. You can't do categorical thinking with things like this.
I don't even think our human minds can really conceive everything that really is. Like,
No.
I think we try to understand it, the basics as much as we do. We try to explain it with religion, with whatever,
Anything.
and science, like. And I think we're barely scraping the surface.
Girl, at least we're curious. At least
Yeah.
we're curious. That's one thing about humans. We've always been very curious on how things work, why they work. Some of the concepts lead to destruction and war, and other things lead to innovation. It just depends who's holding the consciousness, you know.
What if that's just the cycles, though? What if
Right.
you do have a cycle of, like, destruction or resharpening or whatever, and then you come back up with skills that you learned during that phase? Like, you can't always be in just a phase, because we're here in this world for expansion and growth. Like, this is a plane of both sides of the scale, hot and cold, you know, good and bad, whatever it is, but everything exists on a scale in this world. So for us to only experience highs and know nothing else to teach us or to grow us, like, we would have had to transcend the laws of this world in a way.
You know, I
to
agree
do
because
that.
everything in life is truly a cycle. Even all these like massive floods that people are like, oh, the end is coming. It's already came, like multiple times.
If you look at it, this happens every so many years.
The
or
world
whatever.
resets, and it's just part of the process. So, yeah, I think it is part of our process to how could we ever appreciate our light if we didn't have darkness in our lives? How could we ever grow from those moments?
Would you play a video game that had no challenge?
What do you mean?
If there was a video game,
Oh.
and you for sure, like, right away, you would already have all the money, you would have all the cars, you would have
Right.
all of that. Like, would you even play the video game?
Yeah, the
would
game's
there be
not
a point?
fun. Like,
Yeah, it's the challenges that make it fun.
exactly. It's the experience.
Yeah, it's the experience. There was a time that I started really spoiling myself. I was like, why not? I mean, I can, so I'm going to do it. So I was doing the traveling, I was eating out all the nice restaurants, was doing all of that. And then it got kind of tiresome.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I mean, it was great. It's still great.
Yeah.
But I was like, I need to grow some more. I need to put myself out there to do another challenge. I need to take on another mission.
Right.
I need to do another challenge because, like,
It got boring after a
Yeah.
while, right? It was the same thing every day. Like, okay.
and I think that's like what excites us, our souls, is to know, hey, there's another mission. We're going to gain another, like, you know, purple crystal for the next level, or but it's usually a skill.
I love that you call it a mission because when I started basing my life and my goals around seeing it as like a mission to get to that point, it made it so much more satisfying for me when I finally got there, because you don't really see the growth when you're going through it. Like, you know, when I stopped one day, I moved out very young. I was like 16 years old. And so fast forward like 5 years later, I'm going to college. I have my own car. I have my own place. I went from like just hopping from friends' couches. I moved out young. I was 16. So I was just kind of like living around. I worked a job. I went to high school. Complete crap lifestyle.
Yeah.
And then I just hustled. I promised myself I don't ever want to live like this again. I hustled, never stopped a chance to look back and be like, oh, okay, I'm doing good. And then one day I just looked up and said, oh, I have stuff. I have my own stuff. When did this happen? And then I just started to cry. And I'm just like, oh, wow, I didn't realize it. And I think a lot of people don't realize how far they come, because back then I wasn't setting milestones. I was just like, I'm just going to get it. I'm just going to get it. and so once I got older, I was like, well, if I set goals, I can be more accountable and have gratitude. And I think gratitude's an energy a lot of people forget about.
Yeah.
And so that really helped me, like, just changing how I see the world, how I interact with what I want to do with myself as a person. And, you know, I discovered myself more of who I want to be, because now I'm setting goals of heading towards that image I have in my head, that perception of, like, this is who I envision myself to be.
Self-image is so important.
Yeah.
It is very important. I was talking to a friend of mine just yesterday about that. But how you think of yourself has a lot to do with what you choose to accomplish and do. Like, if you have confidence, you're going to talk to that girl, you're going to talk to that guy, you're going to go after that job, you're going to go after that business. But if you don't, you're going to talk yourself out of it before you even do it.
Self-sabotage.
Yeah.
I used to do it to myself. My mentor, Reggie, had to, you know, get on me about it. It was like my main flaw. Like, I would just throw everything away. Why do people self-sabotage? Is it like a fear-based thing?
Usually it's a program. Somebody, when they were younger, it was probably a teacher, mom, whoever, was like, you're ugly. Oh, nobody's going to like you. You know, whatever. It'd be something stupid.
Yeah.
But you take it serious because you have to accept the belief. Well, before the age of 7, you're accepting beliefs without even thinking about it, because your analytical mind isn't even formed yet.
Yeah.
So you can't think whether or not you want to accept it. Now, sometimes you can on certain things, because I know there were certain things that I was being taught that I didn't accept, so it never became a belief of mine. But you accept, oh, well, maybe I am fat, maybe I am stupid, maybe I am this, or maybe I am weird, or maybe I am this. And it's all these little things built up, and we may not be completely aware. Usually, this is why it's subconscious, is we're unconscious of this. And so it's an unconscious program we're running, and we may not realize we truly are feeling this way about ourselves. This is why know yourself is so important. And how do you become conscious of what you're unconscious about?
I don't know. I guess, please tell me.
Yeah, that was like something I was so frustrated with when I was younger. Like, how do you become conscious of unconsciousness? It doesn't make sense. Write down your problems. Write down your problems that you're having. Write down what you want, your ideal life. What's that? Who are you in this ideal life? What do you have? You know, what is this? What's your day-to-day? Are you running a team, or do you have a family? Like, what does this look like, your ideal life? What's your current life? The difference, the reason why there's a difference, those unconscious programs that you're running that's self-sabotaging you from having that. That is it. It is only you that is standing in your way. You are the only resistance in its programs. You can say, yeah, well, my mom taught me that, my dad taught me that, or my brother was mean to me, or what. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we all had that, okay?
Exactly. You can't use that as a crutch, you know? And a lot of people
You can't forever. Yes,
Yeah.
You're an adult now. You get to choose your thoughts. You get to choose your actions. Nobody else is doing that for you. And now you're aware of your unconsciousness. How do you, now we act 95% of the day off of unconsciousness. Because as long as you're thinking or doing something else, you're not mindful. Any moment that you're not mindful, you're working in unconscious behavior.
That's true.
And unconscious action. How often are we mindful? What, some people try to do it for 20 minutes a day?
Yeah.
Meditating?
Yeah.
The rest of the day?
What are you doing?
We are acting unconsciously. And so that unconscious behavior, unconscious programming can be good and bad. It doesn't all have to be bad.
Yeah, like when I'm driving and I don't even remember driving, and I'm like, oh,
That's
I'm
part
here.
of it. Yes.
It has its benefits.
It really, it has some amazing, and when you learn to how you can control that, and if you can rechange your programming, you can reprogram yourself, become aware of the unawareness, and so you make it aware. So then you can become mindful. So if you notice yourself going back to a certain reaction or a certain behavior, you can bring yourself back, become the observer, become mindful. So now you're aware again. And because now you're aware of this unconscious behavior, so you become aware when you're doing this unconscious behavior, then you'd be like, oh, I don't want to do this. Okay, what's the next step? And it actually is kind of difficult to take the next step because the ego's like, no, you're going to die.
Yeah.
But while you're taking that next step, but you just got to trust yourself. You got to trust your soul. You got to trust a higher self of this isn't the way I want to keep doing this anymore. And I'm going to keep getting what I've been getting if I keep doing this way. And this is a problem I have, and I don't want this problem anymore. And that's okay to accept that and say, I don't want this anymore. And then quit tuning in, though. And quit tuning in with your behavior. Quit tuning in with your thoughts. Even if they're unconscious, you got to bring them conscious. You've got to become mindful, and you got to start changing that. You got to start changing that pattern, become a habit, because it's a pathway. You know, like a trail. If you're going down the trail over and over, the grass is knocked down. It's so much easier to go down that trail. Well, the brain has these neural pathways, too. So this old way of doing something is going to be easier. The new way, you're going to be having to go through there with a freaking machete trying to clear the path, and it's not as easy, or it doesn't feel as easy, but it's going to feel better in the long run. And it's all about going for the feel better long term.
Do you think people self-sabotage them when they're already, you know, I believe heavily in when people speak life into existence, and, you know, you're saying they got to be confident, they got to know themselves. A lot of people don't even realize something as little as saying, oh, that could never be me. Like, you know, this was like something I used to do. Like, my mentor used to tell me, like, hey, stop saying small numbers. Like, these clients, like, don't be scared to say, like, 500,000, 2 million. Like, and I'm like, and at that time, I was like, I had just come from, like, quitting my medical job. I was just, like, hustling digitally, like, online stores. So to me, it was like, these numbers are wild. I'm just making, like, a few thousand. Like, what do you mean 500,000? Like, what? And he's like, get used to saying these numbers. And at first I felt uncomfortable saying it because I personally, had I not had a mentor, I would have never, ever said those numbers. And I would have never felt comfortable saying those numbers. So I would have never tried. And I would have, and guess what? Now I have those clients. I've closed deals on those clients. But it took someone telling me, believe in that. And don't tell yourself you can't. And I used to think it's so cheesy when people say, believe, if you believe, you can. But it's true. It's like I realized, oh my goodness, I was my biggest wall. I was my biggest enemy in a sense. I was not allowing myself to grow by already telling my mind, which creates my reality, that it's just not impossible. When it was, you just had to just start saying it is. And it didn't happen overnight. It was like, again, I had to look back and be like, oh crap, when did I start getting flown out to random countries and like just get to meet all these people with tons of bread, and they just want to like be like, yeah, we're gonna give you a $50K budget for marketing and this, and I'm like, what? Like, never.
You know what I love is that you got a mentor.
Yeah,
you got somebody that could help you level up, because who we surround ourselves with does affect our energy. They brainwash us too. Like, we can't help but get into vibration with people. Like, we may even get the same emotions that they do. We'll pick up on slogans or words that they say, eye movements, facial expressions, everything. We are just that way. We are psychically feeling each other all the time. So whoever you're around, you're going to start picking up things from them. And it's also repetition. You're constantly seeing that. So they are planting seeds of who they are in you while you're around them.
And they almost create, maybe unknowingly, maybe they do know, they're creating a spark in you that you didn't know.
Well, some can do the opposite. You had brought up narcissistic relationships before this podcast. And some people, if you choose to put yourself around people who brainwash you into thinking worse about yourself, they can take away that spark. But it still was you that allowed it. So you have to be responsible for the energy you keep around you. But you also have to know that other energies will affect you.
Yeah, that's true, because people can take away your light. And that's how you end up in the darkness, in chaos. And so it's just kind of like, you know, how do people protect their energy? How do they learn to appreciate the energy given to them? Because, like, let's say I wasn't ready to be mentored. It wouldn't have mattered if you had everything. I had to be receptive. And that's exactly what happened. And I think that was a big life lesson for me, is learning that I think some people think they're above being mentored or being coached, or they don't need it. And I realized that I need their spark. Like you said, plant a seed in my head, because if it resonates with my frequency and it resonates with my goals on who I want to be, then it's going to grow, it's going to sprout, and it's going to manifest and become my next reality. And it doesn't happen overnight, but it happens. I've learned that through the cycles. Like you said, everything's a cycle. It's like I had my first big breakthrough when I cried and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not living like crap anymore. I'm not that little teenager that just had to like figure it out. I'm a grown woman now and I have stability. It's like, okay, now what? You know, like you said, I was kind of like spoiling myself, eating out. And then I was like, well, is this it? Am I just happy now because I finally have the one thing I always wanted? Or should I ask for more? And then
always more.
Yeah.
That's how you grow. That's the whole expansion. This is the whole universe is expansion. And some people think, oh, well, then you're desiring more. That's like a lower level vibe because desire is actually below reason and logic. It's more in the survival paradigm. So, and you had mentioned intelligence too. Did you know that the spiritual paradigm is above reason and logic vibrationally? It's not in the same vibration.
Didn't know that.
You actually have to let go of what you think is logical.
I'm just over here thinking of like, that's why when you take shrooms, things don't make sense, but they make sense, but they don't make sense.
Yeah. They make sense because they speak to your soul and not use words where it can get messed up with semantics. And that's a problem that we have is words.
Yeah.
It doesn't fully explain.
You know, I had a friend who was an artist. Like he made beautiful paintings and he just said this to me randomly one day and it stuck with me. And I didn't really understand what it meant. Like I understood what it meant, but I wouldn't know how to explain it if someone asked. And I was like, you know, sometimes he's like, words are very, you know, two-dimensional. They're very heavy and they can't see. It's like if I was to paint something, you look at it and it could just have a bigger statement than any amount of words you could ever say. It would impact you. And I've seen art like that where you see the message clear as day and there's no words. And it's just like, he's like, words really keep people divided. Languages keep people divided. And it's like, that's true. Language, like you were saying, it kind of just, there's only so much you can say with words. You know, you can just see someone, like when I first met you, I was like, oh my goodness, she feels light. She feels like light. Like she's just, I don't feel anything bad from her. You just feel like warm and fuzzy. And it's like, and I didn't even know you. And I was like, who is this woman? It's like you radiate who you are. And it's like, okay, I see you. And I think if more people were receptive to trying to find
Some people are irritated with it.
Why?
That irritates them.
It's like, why are you so happy, girl?
Yeah, I know. Like, how are you so positive? It's like, I have shit still happen in my life. Don't get me wrong. I just have a different way of looking at it. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm learning something from this, or I'm getting leveled up. Every time an obstacle comes in my life, I seriously think I'm getting leveled up. I'm like, all right, let's get ready for this.
She's like, you want to challenge me?
Yeah, right. I got this.
You know, and it feels good. Like, I think everyone gets scared of failure. I used to get scared of failure. Like, and I think now I kind of look forward to it because then I know how to do it better next time. And I think I saw it on a meme, maybe in a podcast. I don't know. They were just like, you know, failure's part of the process. And once I understood that and went through it, I was like, okay, don't be scared of failure. A lot of people are so scared to fail, to not do something right, not understanding that that's just how we learn. That's how our body and brain are literally developed to learn.
Yeah.
Because it's an experience. And to have an experience, you have to learn.
And some people are also kind of scared of having all of the emotions. They think you're only supposed to have the good emotions, or what they've termed good emotions.
Right.
Emotions are just a gauge to tell you where you are in your state of consciousness. That is as simple as you can pretty much put it. Like, whatever level of consciousness that thought had, that emotion is going to vibrate that level of consciousness that thought had. So, like, if you don't feel good, look back at your thoughts. Look at where are you coming from this. Can you change your perception? You always can. There's millions of different perceptions. Like, to say, no, this is the only way to look at it. You're being very stubborn, and you probably need to be a little more open-minded than that to grow.
Yeah, I agree, because I used to be like, whenever I was going, we all go through ups and downs in lives. We all get into our little funks or whatever. We have a bad day. But back then, I used to just let it destroy me. I'd be like, life, I'm so depressed. I really used to just have bad anxiety and depression. I was never like diagnosed, but I just would be in bed for 3 days, and I wouldn't eat, and I wouldn't get ready, and I wouldn't talk to anyone. And why? Like, why would I do that? And then I don't know, I'd just be fine. And I realized that it's just because when those emotions would come, I would just overreact. Mm-hmm. And so once I realized that life is a cycle. And at that time, I didn't see it as a cycle. I would just say, it's a wave. It's going to go up. It's going to go down. It's going to go up.
You're the one that waves, not life.
Me, see, I'm a wave. I'm wavy.
Yeah, we all
it.
think it's a wave. It's us that waves. It's not life. Life is steady. It's the energy is steady. It's always there. We're the ones who chooses to wave.
Oh.
But it's because of cycles. We grow. So whenever I feel bad, I realize this is a flag. Hey, Mitzi, pay attention. And I'm like, okay, what is this? Like the other day, I'll tell you a quick story.
Okay.
I wanted to throat punch somebody the other day. Like seriously,
You?
wanted to throat punch them. Yes, and I'm a pretty loving person.
Exactly.
Like I don't get to, I don't get angry very quickly. It takes a while to get there, but when I do, and so this person, you know, I can judge them and say they did me wrong and all that kind of stuff, you know, but that's not what the goal is here. It's not about blaming or saying somebody's an asshole or anything like that, because they're just playing a role for me to learn something right now. I appreciate the role they've played and who they reveal who they are. That's fine. I used to really resist that, but I noticed, you know, I was starting to resist it again. And this was coming on in a different level, different layer of it. So it comes around, I was like, what a fucking asshole. You know, and it just like, and I was upset for like a few hours because I was having to do some stuff because some of the threats that they were making, I was having to make sure, you know, certain things were protected. And then I stopped. And I was like, I am playing in the fucking circus. I sat down, I was like, I am not playing in the circus. I picked a role and I started playing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I am not a victim. I sat there and I meditated, I breathed, and then I was like, I'm thankful. I'm thankful for this situation. I'm thankful for this. Even if this other, if they were able to do everything they're threatening on me, that's fine too. You know, I'm just going to accept it all.
So what I'm grabbing from this is you were able to grab your peace of mind back, which was,
Oh yeah, I took my peace back.
You're my energy and my peace. Thank you, I'm out.
Yeah, and then all that, everything stopped.
Done.
Yeah, it just all stopped. I don't even know if it's still happening anymore. But it was just me being like, why am I giving energy to a circus? Because we are powerful, very energetic beings.
Yes.
Whatever we plug into, whatever we give attention to, we plug into. And I have a very powerful energy. I ain't about to plug into your shit.
Right.
That's how excuse my language, but that's the way I thought whenever I was like, what am I doing? I'm giving this energy, my precious energy, and it's something I don't want.
You were just apologizing. You were like, oh, no. Let me get that.
Yeah. Let's unplug. Okay, let's plug over here.
Yeah.
And so I sat down and just took it all back. I wrote down like some things that I was grateful for. And then I was like, I'm going to go for a walk. So I went for a walk, I grounded myself, and I just felt so much better. And then I just kept on focusing, and I was like, Mitzi, you're a radio station. Remember that. Do not tune into the things that you don't want. Don't even engage enough to actually start acting off of it.
Yeah.
I was actually coming to action. And I was like, oh, no, quit that momentum. We're not going down the hill with this kind of momentum.
Right.
Like we're gonna change.
We have to be really careful what we choose to give energy to. And I'm not, you know, I used to be like super like, no, I'm just above it all. But then I realized, no, sometimes I do go low. Like, if someone tests me, okay, like not every time, but sometimes.
I was ready to call some bad friends. I was like,
some bad friends. It's always good to have good friends and bad friends. See, that's why we need balance in life. You can't just be all high and mighty, love and light. And, you know, we got to appreciate the darkness and chaos because it teaches us who we are.
Yeah, it revealed something in me that still was something that I needed to work through. So once I took that power back and I brought myself back up in the state of consciousness, I was like, this don't even matter. What am I doing? And I've got so much precious energy to be putting and plugging into the things that I want and be tuning into that. I'm going to do that. And it's like, this person over here is like, what happened to the attention? You don't get any. There you go.
And do you feel like, because you're like a real estate monster in my personal opinion, like you're killing it as a woman in the industry. I just watch you and I just see you and I'm just like, so do you feel that your awareness of like consciousness and energy, do you think it really helps you in your like ability to make income?
Yeah. So I do believe there's work in this. And I think a lot of the work is within. But you also have to pay attention to relationships, because that is also something where work is, and that's it's with us too, but it's outside of us are these relationships that we've chosen.
Yeah.
And so there's also more for us to learn through that too. So I think do the work in your personal relationships and in yourself. And when you get to a certain level of having done the work, things do start, you find your flow, you find the ease, you find a way to get yourself back into power. And when you're in power, you can make shit happen. You can like, I mean, I'll just be like, I want some ribs, and somebody will seriously bring me some ribs that doesn't even know me.
I've done that before, and I'm like, is that just a lucky coincidence? I don't think so, because it's happened to me a few times.
Yeah, one time when I started playing with this, it was about 6 years ago, actually, is whenever I got into this business. And I was like, I want to see how far I can get into this, because my friends were always calling me a master manifester, and they were like, I don't know why you think that you can't have this. You can have whatever you want. I say it all the time, and I'm like, okay, let me play with this. So I'd read a few books, and so I wrote down like 7 things that I wanted, and I was like, I'll do this in 30 days. I did it all in 7 days. Those 7 things, I accomplished all of them, and it was things that I don't even know how. I made $25,000. I got a free toy poodle that already had all its vaccinations. I got a free trip to New York City, along with a free ticket to how to teach you how to be rich with Ramit. And then his brother hit on me while I was there. So I was like a movie star while I was there. So I was hanging out with Ramit's family when I was over there, and he's this big time guy just because his brother liked me. So I get to hang out with the family, be in their freaking penthouse suite and all that kind of stuff. Like, it was like insane. And I was just like, wow, felt like a nobody, but I was there with millionaires who were trying to reach the billionaire mark. That was what that event was for. I did not feel like I belonged there at the time. And then, but it was just, but I went ahead and was like, no, I freaking belong there. You know, people are going to be like, who are you?
That's
and then when I got there,
yes.
The photographer liked me, I guess. So I was like on almost every photo in the slideshow. So everybody was like, who are you? Yeah. Are you like an actress? Or are you like somebody famous? And we don't know. I'm like, no, I'm seriously nobody.
You put that energy out there.
Yeah. Everybody was thinking I was somebody.
And you amplified it because you believed it. Like, you're like, I belong here. And it's like, not only do you belong here, I'm going to leave my imprint here.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just, it's amazing to just hear everything that you've told me today. It really helped me kind of grab insight on like just how to apply consciousness, awareness, and just keeping your energy to yourself and moving through life with it. And it's like, if you practice this every day, you're going to see life changes. It's
going to be easier. There's going to be a flow. You can put an attention out there, and you plug that into that attention consistently. You can have what you're trying to go for. But there are going to be skills you may need to develop. There are going to be challenges that may come up, but don't let that deter you. That's what's necessary for the next step anyway. So it's all good. It's all good.
Awesome. Well, Mitzi, I loved having you. I hope we can have some more conversations in the future. I have tons of questions for you regarding relationships and so many other things. So I hope one day soon I get to talk to you about it, because I love picking your brain. But anyways, I'm going to wrap up, and, thank you everybody for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe. This was Mindset with Mitzi. I'm Caro, and we'll be talking to you soon again.